Hello all, and welcome to your second selfie. With this selfie, you guys are going to be investigating your own gender and your own gendered identity. And you're going to be doing it using some artwork and some video recordings that you will make. And so I would like to begin by just kind of letting you know what we're going to talk about with this little video, and then introducing you a little bit to MoMA. So we're going to talk just very briefly about gender identity. I'm going to introduce you to the MoMA exhibit, and I'm going to walk you through the rubric for this assignment, and then I'm going to show you an example of how to do a video or how to kind of set up your video schema. All right, so this is what you're doing. You're constructing gender. And we're going to use art to do it. And so art is a form of symbolic expression. And so you'll remember that last paragraph, or the last part of the biological components to culture for Homo sapiens, happens to be our large symbolic capacity. And what we do with that symbolic capacity is we communicate with symbols. And art essentially is symbolic communication. And when we talk about gender, and we talk even about sexual orientation, we use art to kind of negotiate cultural meaning and contentious issues. And sometimes we'll use art to challenge normative views of gender expression and also sexual orientation. So we're going to take a quick look at the varied examples in the MoMA slides that show us their presentation of gendered expression. Some of the expressions that we are going to look at in these works of art are kind of exposing implicit understandings of gender, and those are assumptions that we make about gender. And we've talked briefly about implicit ways we pick up our enculturation process. For example, when we eat dinner with our family, your parents or whoever you happen to be eating dinner with, they're not laying out the rules of gendered behavior, but you're noticing that while this dinner goes on, there are certain tasks and duties that are fulfilled by male members of a family and certain tasks that are performed by female members of a family. And that's an implicit way of kind of picking up gendered cues of behavior. Other than that, other than implicit understandings that we pick up along our enculturation process, there are some things that are explicitly laid out, and there are ways that art can actually explicitly challenge normative ideas of gender. And MoMA has kind of put together a really nice collection for us to do that. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of them. All right, here you see a work that's done by Lori Simmons, and she's a multimedia artist. And so she deals with photography and also miniatures. And if you look at Lori's compilation that she's kind of put together here, you can see you've got a nice little 50s looking like woman in a nice little dress. She's dressed very nicely, and obviously she's getting ready to prepare a meal. And so this is kind of making a statement on gender and gender roles in particular. This next work of art that you can see if you go to MoMA, and I will stop just a second to let you know that MoMA is the Modern Museum of Art in New York, world-renowned modern Museum of Modern Art. And so this piece is done by Claude Calhoun. And Claude is known for this very androgynous type of representations in their work. And so Claude biologically is a female, but if you were to look at this photograph, you might not actually kind of guess that. And Claude specifically chose a name that was kind of and this is a French name, that's kind of associated with both male and female. All right, here's Frida Kahlo, and Frida Kahlo, in no uncertain terms, is making an explicit challenge to gender norms. It's such an explicit challenge that you see her with, cutting hair and kind of violently throwing it about the room, and she's kind of shorn herself, and now she has a hair style that's more likely associated with masculine types of gendered expressions, especially in 1940. And so this one's called Frida Kahlo's Self-Portrait with Cropped Hair, and she's got a very direct gaze. And again, she's very much challenging in her masculine kind of suit. The idea of masculinity and femininity runs all through Frida Kahlo's work. This is Robert Gober. He tends to use pictures of media, particularly media that's dedicated to commercialism. And so you can see here you've got a picture of someone that might be considered to be very feminine. She's corseted, she's got a white gown which is associated with purity for a wedding, flowers in her hair and makeup. And this is something that Saks Fifth Avenue is used to kind of sell women on this very feminine type of identity. Here is a work done by Richard Prince, and he's multimedia. He works here with drawing and also photography. And in this piece right here, you can see that you've got kind of this really macho cowboy that's very confident. And then in the second photograph, you can see you've got someone who's riding on a horse, but they seem very small, and it's kind of against this very intimidating kind of rock face. And so this is an exploration of masculinity where you've got this kind of really strong masculine identity that's put out there, but on the inside, someone who has that kind of very masculine identity might actually feel slightly disempowered instead of empowered. Cindy Sherman is famous for black and white gelatin prints. And here you can see she's got two women that kind of have these very challenging and kind of quizzical looks on their face. The first one is a businesswoman in the city with a cute little hat and a bow on it. And the second one you can see is a woman who looks like she's getting ready to either cook or do the dishes with her nice little apron, but yet she kind of has this modern type of hair and look about her. So Cindy does a lot of prints that kind of explore women in different types of backgrounds and exploring what it means to be kind of feminine. And last but definitely not least, you see Andy Warhol here. This is called Gold Marilyn. And when we think of femininity, oftentimes the first image that pops into many people's minds is Marilyn Monroe, because she's still an icon even though she passed away in the 1960s. And here Warhol has just hyper feminized her. He's given her extra blonde hair, extra makeup on here, and then he's surrounded her with gold or wealth here. So he's trying to make a statement about selling femininity as well. All right, so how are you going to put together this selfie? Well, the first thing you're going to do is something you've already started, which is you're going to read this document, and then you're going to play this video. So read the instructions carefully. You're going to actually visit the MoMA site, and where you've got the link on this document here, you can click on there, and it is investigating identity. And so in addition to these works of art that we've very quickly kind of breezed through, it has excellent types of references for you guys to use to formulate and construct your own gender artwork. So here's your challenge. What you need to do is to find an existing work of art, or you can make one of your own. You do not need to use one from MoMA. In fact, I'd actually prefer it if you didn't. I'd like you to actually spend a little time actually thinking about what image actually does truly represent your gender identity, because it will make the part where you have to actually explain it much easier. You are going to produce a Word doc with a very brief 100 to 150 word explanation of how this artwork actually represents your gender identity. This is not a formal writing exercise, so you don't have to worry about necessarily putting it into a 5-paragraph response. You're just going to kind of free form and tell me exactly how the image relates to your own gender identity. All right, once you have followed the instructions on this sheet and you constructed your script, you are ready to record a Flipgrid video. And you're just going to go to the assignments portion in Canvas, and you're going to click on that assignment. It will take you right to the Flipgrid section, and you just have to click on it. It will easily kind of take you through, and you essentially just have to click the buttons and get to where the part where you're just going to click record, and it will do it all for you. You have a maximum of 5 minutes, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually is. And again, read through the instructions so you feel comfortable before you actually get ready to record. Here is an important note. On this Flipgrid system, I can monitor it, and others can see your video. If you are uncomfortable sharing a video of a discussion with you kind of exploring your gender, let me know and put it in your script, and I will make the submission private. And so none of the videos are going to be released until I actually read over your script and make sure that you're actually comfortable sharing your video. But what that's going to do is everyone that shares your video, it's going to give everybody a chance to kind of get to know each other a little bit better. And it's kind of a nice way to kind of build a sense of community in an online format where we're kind of spread all over the globe. All right, here's the point breakdown. Here's how you make your points, 20 points total. 5 points for your artwork. And so once you find that artwork, you are going to need to identify the artist, the date of production, and where that artwork can actually be found. And you are going to post that on the submission section, in the discussion section, I'm sorry, that you'll see on Canvas. All right, 10 points for your script and detailed explanation of how the artwork relates to your own gender identity. Please embed a picture of your artwork into the document and submit it on a PDF or a Word document, approximately 100 to 150 words, which is not a lot, so it's not going to be a huge writing assignment for you guys. Submit that into Canvas into the appropriate section. 5 points for your Flipgrid video. And you may ask yourself, why in the world do we have to do a video for this assignment? The reason that we're doing a video for this assignment has to do with one of the overall goals for this course, which is to get you guys more comfortable talking about human sexuality. We are developing things where we're trying to discuss back and forth. Like for example, in your first selfie, we're discussing human sexuality with a partner. But part of communicating about human sexuality is being able to communicate to someone else about yourself. And you can't really tell someone about yourself until you've spent a little bit of time actually figuring out what that is. And so this exercise is giving you the opportunity to really kind of get more connected to what your gender identity actually is. And then a step further, using the video as a way to kind of present yourself or learn how to present yourself clearly to others. It's a really good exercise to do that. Okay, so now what you'll see here is I've shared with you my artwork. And so I thought what I would do is just kind of give you an example of how you might kind of run through your little Flipgrid video. Now, it's going to be difficult because there's no share screen option that I know about on Flipgrid. And so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to either print out a picture of your artwork. You can see I've done that here. Or you're going to have to kind of find it on your phone and kind of share it on the phone in the video. And that's why we're actually submitting a picture to the discussion board. So if someone is kind of curious or really likes the artwork that you're sharing with them on the video, they can go to the discussion section and get a much better look at the video. Okay, so if I were going to be doing this Flipgrid video, the first thing I would do is I would follow the script as it's laid out in the instructions. And so I'm just going to pretend that I'm one of you guys and I'm going to submit my video. So here we go. All right, my name is Anne, and my sex is female, and my gender is cisgender. And I lean towards feminine aspects of expression, but I also have a lot of masculine aspects as well. My sexual orientation is straight. When we talk about gender, or the way I feel about gender and I feel about names, for example, I think names and gender are also really interesting. So for example, my name is Anne. I never really liked that name that much growing up because it always seemed to me to be kind of plain and a little bit quiet. And I never wanted to be either plain or quiet. So I never really kind of felt identified, closely or favorably with my name. Which leads me to talk a little bit about dead naming, which is something where you call a trans person by their old name. Now, you can get a little bit of a tiny bit of hint of what that might feel like if you just don't like the name that your parents gave you. But actually, dead naming is a way to kind of actually devalue someone's personhood. So it's not a good idea to actually do that. But I was thinking about gender and name expression and how just my own name doesn't really fit that well, I think, with my own gender expression. All right, beyond that, gender is something that is also really interesting, and how I perceive of my gender doesn't always seem to match with how others perceive my gender, which I always find fascinating as an anthropologist. And one way that this really comes to light is through cross-cultural comparisons. And so, for example, I work in Peru, and when I go to Peru, I'm very American, and I will walk into work with my Peruvian colleagues, and they consider me to be very loud, very aggressive, and very masculine because I never wear a dress and I always have pants on. Which doesn't match with my own kind of idea of my gender identity. I feel very feminine oftentimes because I wear earrings all the time and I put makeup on and I kind of not necessarily have frilly shirts, but I feel very feminine. And sometimes I just have to kind of think a little bit and kind of monitor my behavior a little bit, because in that culture, my behavior, my kind of in your face kind of American type behavior is perceived to be a little bit more masculine, which leads me to my choice of artwork to express my own gender identity, which is this fabulous black and white gelatin print of an actress named Katharine Hepburn. And so as soon as I saw this image, I thought, this is how I feel, this is how I would love to be. And so you can see Katharine here. She's feminine, she's got beautiful bone structure, she's got a full set of makeup on here, she's very glamorous looking, but she's very confident, and she also has a nice pair of pants on, smoking her cigarette, having a very comfortable time with her legs kind of up. And this really kind of embodies, I think, how I feel as far as my own kind of gender identity. And so that's why I picked this wonderful print from Katharine Hepburn. All right, so you notice I actually timed myself, and I'm well under 5 minutes, which is what you need to be. And that's all you have to do, just kind of a really simple kind of explanation as to your name, your sex. If you want to, you don't have to do your sex. You do have to do your gender. You do not have to do your sexual orientation, but you can put those 3 things in there if you're comfortable. And then again, just a very casual kind of explanation about why the artwork resonates with you and how it kind of relates to your own gendered identity. Keep it simple and keep it enjoyable. I want you guys to try and have like a little bit of fun with this. It doesn't necessarily have to be really serious or, you know, sneak in a lesson on dead naming because I'm the instructor and that's what I'm supposed to be doing. You don't need to do that. Keep it focused on yourself and keep it fun and really kind of enjoy this. And I'm actually looking forward to kind of seeing you guys, and I can't wait to see the artwork. I really like this assignment. When I normally do this when we're on an on-campus assignment, I just get constantly surprised by the creativity of the pieces that are submitted by you guys. So again, have fun with it. Read the instructions carefully. If you read over the instructions and you're not really clear, please ask a TA on the discussion board, or go ahead and send me an email for that. So thanks a lot, guys. And again, look forward to seeing your submissions.